Welcome back. I'm here today with Melissa Durrell from Kitchener-Waterloo, and super excited to have Melissa on the show today. Melissa is a former journalist who founded DCOM. Is that what you call it, Melissa?
Durrell Communications. Yeah.
Durrell Communications, which is a full-service public relations agency. She works with clients to promote their unique brands in print and online. And she's got so many other things and so many other talents that we're going to talk about today. But Melissa went from being a journalist and excelling in that career to wanting to have her own business and run things her own way. So we're going to talk to Melissa about that transition and what brought it on, and also how she managed to overcome the obstacles and I guess the struggles that come with a transition, a career change like that. So go ahead, Melissa, just tell us a little bit about that process and, maybe why you wanted the change in the first place.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. It's a delight to join you on your YouTube channel. So thank you. So I guess the big thing for me with that transition was, like a lot of women in their mid-30s, I was working a very high stress job as a television reporter. And I often tell this story because I just think it says so much about where my life was at. I had had 2 children pretty late in life, so I did them in my mid-30s. And both times I took short maternity leaves, and my husband took the remainder of the paternity.
Yeah.
So I'd be back at work because the newsroom is really competitive. And the other thing that my husband and I were doing when we both ended up back at work was I would work. He was a teacher, or is a teacher, so he would work from 7 a.m. till 3, and then I would be at home with the kids, and then he would come home at 3, I would leave, and I would work 3:15 to 12:15 every single night.
Wow.
And so there was a point where, and when you come into a newsroom at 3:15, the 6 o'clock news is rolling, and they often have a story for that, for the late reporter to come in, and your job is to supplement the 6 p.m. and then have a fresh story for the 11:30 newscast. So I would walk into the newsroom, and most of the time it was like, and at 3 o'clock in a newsroom, anyone who knows, it is gong show bananas, right? Like, people are moving, stories are being edited, there's people all over the place, like the scanners are live, you've got all the TVs rolling. And I would walk in after spending the day with my babies, and I remember, like, I'd walk in and be like, all right, Durrell, out the door. And like at that point too, when I started in television, I had a photographer, I had an editor and a producer, and it was, it had far more people to help. So by that point, pretty much all photographers were gone. So reporters were expected to do their own videography work. And oftentimes you'd head out into the field and you'd either meet a live truck, which is often what would happen with the late reporter. So you'd be on location, a big truck would roll up, and you'd have to get your story edited in that truck and go live at 6. Anyway, so I roll in this one day, and it is like gong show bananas. I run upstairs, down to the newsroom, back upstairs, get in the truck, drive off for my interview, which was set up for 3:30. So I didn't even make any calls, nothing. I was just on my way to this interview. I get there, I throw the back of the truck up, and there's no camera in it. And it was like that moment where I'm like, okay, like it's too much right now. And I think a lot of women, we get to that point, we push ourselves so much that, it's that one moment in time where you're like, this is my turning point. And it was the fall of 2010, the spring of 2010. And I'd always been interested in politics. So I was looking at perhaps running for city council in my space. And at that point, serendipitously, I suppose, the current city councilor had said they weren't going to run again. And so I was thinking a lot about it. So I ended up putting my name in to run, and was fortunate enough that the people of Uptown elected me. So I became I think at that point I was the youngest female city councilor Waterloo had ever elected, which is kind of interesting because I was in my mid-30s at the time. So there's, obviously we've got some changes we need to make in this community. But anyway, that aside, shortly after I was elected, I had to resign from my position at CTV, and I had a lot of politicians and CEOs and people in the public who were saying, hey, can you help media train me? So that was really the first, and I think a big thing for pivoting and transitioning to a new career is, what are your transferable skills? And so I really started to think about what can I take from an insane job where every day you interview like 3 or 4 people and you put a story together and you go live on a 6 o'clock news, you go home, go to bed, and you start it all over again. Like, the work ethic is crazy. Your researching skills are amazing. The idea, like I always say, reporters are great cocktail party people, because we know a lot about a lot of little things. You don't want to go too deep with a journalist, but we can talk about everything, right? So, but that's super transferable. And so it wasn't long after that, I started to media train and realize that there was a real need in this community, because at that point, it was just the 2010 to 2011, where tech was launching in Waterloo. Like, we were becoming, I mean, BlackBerry was still, it was coming down, but because BlackBerry was coming down, all of these smaller tech organizations were coming out of it, right? Like, I think obviously BlackBerry's success as the first smartphone in our community is unreal. But what they also did was they attracted incredible talent from all over the world. And so as BlackBerry started to lay people off, these are all really smart people, and they started all their own little companies. Yeah. And so Communitech approached me and they said, hey, we have a lot of really smart people. They just can't talk about what they do. And I think a lot of organizations get into that issue where they know so much about their organization, it's hard to actually just do an elevator pitch or just say briefly, like, here's what we do. Right. And so, hey, that was my skill, right? So I could take a lot of information and say, this is actually what you're trying to say is you do this. Yeah. And so that's how it started. And from there, I really got into the tech world. It is so exciting because, these are brilliant people with incredible ideas that can fundamentally change the way we live, work, and play in our world. And so I just got really invested in helping these tech companies, and that from there, my little boutique PR agency was born, and we're now up to 11, 12 people that work here. I've got an amazing team of incredible women that just get it. There are a lot of former journalists, public relations experts, writers are a big part of my team. And it's so much fun, Rebecca. Like, I love every day.
I know.
And I don't forget my camera anymore. I don't forget my equipment because I'm so in the moment now,
So it sounds to me like it was a fairly natural transition for you. Like I like to say to my audience too, investigating what your transferable skills are and things you're passionate about. If you're thinking about, launching your own business, or you're already in a startup, are you passionate about it, and why? What is really feeding your goals and the outcomes that you're desiring? Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, was there any point in time where when you were starting Durrell Communications, where there was a setback, there was something, obstacle, and how did you I know there was probably many, but is there one that really stands out where you were like, I don't know if this is right?
There's been many, but I think the biggest one for me was, my schooling is all journalism, like English, history, like that's my brain. And I think a big part of what a lot of pardon me, I don't have a business degree. No.
You can do business without a business degree?
Right? Absolutely you can. But this is where my big falling point was. And I think for me, it was the biggest lesson learned. And definitely to this day, I live and breathe this. And I just didn't have the handle on my financials that I needed to have. And, I'm a big believer in hiring people who are smarter than me to help me with whatever I need. So I had hired a well-recommended bookkeeper and accountant to help me with that. And I thought everything was okay. And it turns out it wasn't. And so I ended up almost bankrupt, running a successful company, and almost bankrupt because my accountant, bookkeeper at the time, was not doing their job. And so I think, it's okay to delegate. What I've learned is it's okay to delegate, but you have to know what's going on in those situations. And I think that was a massive learning lesson for me. We're fine now. We're back on track. And, despite the pandemic, we're making money. So that's a really good thing. But, and so I think my biggest, what I always tell people is, yes, you definitely hire your CTOs, hire your CFOs, hire those people who are smarter than you can manage it. But, you know, once a month or whatever that looks like for you, understand what you're talking about, get those numbers down. It was interesting too, because at the time I was managing massive budgets at City Hall. Like we would do, as a city councilor with my other hat on, we would have these multi-million-dollar budgets, and I'd be going through the financials and trying to understand what they are. So it's not that I didn't have the capacity. I thought it's all being taken care of. I don't need to do it. And so that blind eye, which actually, you know, at the end of the day, the buck stops here. So I think you wear a lot of hats when you run your own company, especially at the very beginning, and you're looking for solutions. Like, you know, you said, I don't have a business degree. No, but I hired a business coach who has an MBA, and then, you know, we check in on a monthly basis to make sure that I'm hitting my strategic goals and my financial goals. And I have a really great accountant now who meets with me on a quarterly basis, and we walk through all of my stuff. So I think I've learned a lot. I almost lost everything, but, you know, an amazing partner. My husband's an amazing partner, husband. And, you know, we worked through it, and now we're back on track, but woo, that was tough. Financially, that was tough.
Super important. I've heard more than one person has told me that too, as I'm growing my business, just to really make sure you know what's going on financially, but also, yes, hire the people that you need. I've also had business coaches. And the reason I said, oh, you don't have a business degree is because I really believe you don't have to have a business degree.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I was speaking at the Laurier Master's Entrepreneurship class, and when they were going through the slides, I'm going, I've just learned all that through experience. Like,
yeah,
no better way than to try and, you know, to go to school or actually just dive right in and do it. And though you're learning more lessons through, you know, quote unquote failures, you're also growing at an exponential rate because you're learning so quickly, I think, how to run a business and how to do it. So
I agree. I think, you know, I looked at doing my MBA and I thought, what's the point now? So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if I do look at doing some more education, it'll be in something I'm really passionate about, like political science or something like that, or international relations. That's where I'll go, because I think the MBA would just be a waste of my time, frankly, at this point. Right. And over 10 years in now.
Yeah, and in these days, you'll be able to study that political science with like the guru of political science. You won't have to go to university necessarily. It'll look so different. So
yeah, excellent point. Yeah, I don't even know what that looks like. Yeah. I know I don't have time right now, though. That's for sure.
For sure. So just to transition, so when I walked into your offices, I noticed the colors. I noticed the friendliness of the staff. I noticed the energy and the vibes there. As you know, I'm the new CFO, the Chief Fun Officer, and I noticed right away, this is a fun place to be. These women are having a good time. How do you incorporate fun into your business? And what importance does it play?
So I think working in a newsroom for the first half of my career was really interesting, because I worked in several newsrooms across the country. And I like that aspect. Newsrooms are kind of a pit, right? Like the reporter pit. And I really liked that. So I think a part of what I wanted to build here was that idea of that creativity that you could, you know, oftentimes I would be writing my story and I'd turn to one of the producers or editors and be like, this is the sentence, this is the word, what's a better word, what's a stronger, like we would workshop a sentence in a news story, right? And I love that feeling, and I think I thrive in that space. And I, you know, I think part of it is building a team that has those same, benefits from those things as well. Sure. So when I first started, I mean, we're in an old building in Uptown Waterloo. And we originally started on the second floor, and it was an open working space. And I think there were like 4 other companies in like just a single, like a big room together. And then as Durrell expanded, like one of the companies moved out, one of the companies moved to the 3rd floor, and so on and so on. We sort of took over, and then we realized, okay, so no, we need more space. So we now moved up to the 3rd floor. And I've kept this idea of a pit because I do love it. So we've just got big, long desks. Yeah. And everyone can speak over top of them. I know with COVID, that's not ideal, but they are pretty far apart from each other. I mean, I'm working alone right now in my office, but the team will be coming back shortly.
Office. What we're seeing right now is the office space that you have.
Yes, you are. So we got big round windows, architecture on the top. Yeah, so it's a beautiful space. And I think for me, a big part of it is I like activity. I was really used to having, as I mentioned at the beginning, like 16 TV sets with different news from every, channel. And I thrive around that. So part of it is, I like the exterior noise. We have a radio station on, usually like a news station on. We'll have, news. We all have news updates coming on our computers all the time. So it's like, Camilla Harris is the VP, and like we're shouting out all the news hits that are happening because it's important for what we do and who we are. And so I think that's a big part of it, just the space in general. I think hiring this team has been a struggle. I mean, you asked me, what are some of the things? Look, financials and talent are two of the hardest things that I don't know how you train for it properly. And I think a lot of it is just experience, doing it well and doing it poorly, and learning from your mistakes. So it's taken me a while.
People, I was going to ask you, because if you're looking for the kind of people that are going to thrive in that environment, so you said a few things. You said, when there's noise in the room and you all run over to the TV or whatever to listen. Well, that implies to me that you have a family-like feel there. Because if everyone's running over to listen to something and then talk about it and to me, that is what I'm talking about with the idea of fun. That people feel like they can be themselves in your space. They feel accepted. They feel like their opinion and their chatter and their input on that workshopping of that sentence is valuable. So when you're hiring new people, this is so important because, the cost of turnover is high, and training people, especially in a boutique business like yours.
Absolutely.
What do you look for with basically what do you look for in a new family member?
Yeah, no kidding. I think probably the first I really like, and it's probably because I come from this space, but I like journalists. I think they understand the newsroom element that I have, the culture that we have here at Durrell Communications. I think too, I look for creativity, and I know that's really hard to find in an interview. So oftentimes, I'll talk to people, I'll ask questions in interviews, like, who's your favorite reporter? That says a lot about who a person is. That they read the news. But also too, is it a female reporter? Is it a male reporter? What do they report on? Do I know that reporter? Do I like that reporter? And I think I don't necessarily have to know or like them, but I definitely think that it shows a lot about who they are. I also ask them what book they're reading or what was the last book they read, because I think that says a lot about who a person is. So I think, we try to bring in some of those. I do a rapid fire in my interviews because I think that's as a journalist, I love the rapid fire. And I think if people can manage that, it means that they can multitask quickly. Their brain can click into different spaces really fast. And so that's something that I look for, knowing too that a lot of people are nervous in interviews. And if I'm hiring for a content assistant, which is sort of the first position into our company, they probably don't have a ton of experience, but so for the rookies coming in to the workforce, I'm really looking for people who just want to learn, because I think for me, that's a big part of it this is a tough business. You'll pitch out a story and you'll get 100 no's and 1 yes. And so, dealing with that can be difficult on if you've got 4 or 5 pitch days in a week, that's a lot of negativity coming back at you. Thanks for the story. No, take me off your list, all those kind of things. Right. And so I think for the positivity, being able to, be agile and adjust. If you're getting a lot of no pitches, what do you need to do? Do you need to change? So, I'm really looking for people who are problem solvers, are decision makers. I love decision makers. That's a really hard thing to, it really is. And I really want to empower the women that work with me to be able to be leaders. And that's always one of the things I talk to them about in interviews is yes, this is your job. This is your career. What are you passionate about? So if you're passionate about the humane, animals, is,
Yeah.
can we get you on a committee with the Humane Society? Like, how can you give back to the community? Because I think that's a really big, important part. Almost every person on my team is doing some sort of volunteer work within their community, within our community. So building it and making it better, which also helps our organization because we have a greater understanding about what's going on out there in the community. Community. But that's a big part of it too. So I look for people who are either doing that, they're passionate about it. I think, you know, if you're in here to work a 7.5-hour day and then go home and watch your Netflix, this isn't the right company for you. I'm happy for you to work 7.5 hours a day. I want you to be passionate about it. I'm super flexy. Like if you want to start in the morning and take a little break and come back in the afternoon to work some more, then, you know, I'm really flexible with hours because I think everybody's bodies and minds are different. I'm a morning person. A lot of people are night people. So I totally get that. And I want people to feel empowered to make those decisions so that they're doing their best work for our clients.
So this is that kind of stuff. So this is partly why I wanted to interview you, because this is the exact kind of stuff that I'm doing with other companies to work with them towards, because they're not recognizing the benefits of giving people freedom of time. They're not recognizing that, you know, different people are coming in with different skill sets and different passions and different things that they're involved in, but actually incorporating that into the business to make it a more fun or happier space. Because when you're, and you can agree with me or disagree with me, but when your employees are happy and feel connected to something bigger, whether it's the Humane Society or some kind of organization that gives back, they're going to be happier at work for that 7.5 hours, whether it's in the morning or at night or whenever it is. And they're probably, do you find, more apt to give you more time and higher productivity because they're happy?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a big part of it for me was when I started, I reworked all of our employee reviews. And I worked with an HR consultant on it because I wanted to make sure that, you know, I never took an HR degree. Like this goes back to hiring somebody who's smarter than I am to help me with my own organization. And it really became an important part of their review process to say, outside of work, what are your goals? So, and you know, I'm the oldest woman in my office. I get to wear that sash or crown, however you want to look at it. So a lot of the women that work with me are younger. So they're in their 20s, they're in their 30s. And this is a pivotal time in their careers. And I never really got that female mentor that I so needed and wanted in those days. Like the newsroom was ridiculously competitive. Everyone was so busy. It was really hard, I think, to reach up. And then, and for many of those women to reach down, it was just tough. And they didn't make it easy. So it's been really important for me in this company that women, all the women that work for me, feel empowered to be leaders, and that makes them happier. So when we redid our reviews, like, what are your personal goals? Like, I think fitness for me is, I figured this out later in life, but I have to work out every single day. It's for clarity. Some people have to meditate every day. When I'm spinning on that bike, going faster than my little 46-year-old legs should take me, that's meditation for me. I can't think of anything else than just like being in that moment. And that's, you know, really what the meditation, you know, you're trying to get to, is being in that moment. So, and I, you know, most of the members of my team are really, like, everyone is athletic in the sense that fitness is an important part of it. And we started to do, pardon me?
Self-care.
Yeah. Yes. Self-care. Huge.
Yeah. Encourage it. This is also so key in businesses.
Yes. Yes. And so, and I found a lot of their personal goals were around, you know, I want to meditate or I want to do yoga. Like I kept seeing this over and over again. So I thought, okay, well, this is perfect. There's another female run business just down the street. It's called Hustle and Flow. It's like a gym with boxing, spinning, and yoga in it. And so we started to look at, we'd buy out like 10, 12 bikes, however many employees we had at the time. And we would go and we'd all spin together. And you know, my joke was, teams that spin together stay together. And I think that that's an important part. So, you know, even instilling that in our culture here at work, that, you know, being physical is important, and let's make time to do it within this organization too, like prioritizing that. Yeah, and I think that that's important. So a lot, a lot of the goals were about weight loss. I'm like, it shouldn't be about, let's talk about weight loss. Let's talk about fitness. And so, and they have such a great vibe over at Hustle and Flow, and like everyone's just really got into that culture. Time off is a big part of it for me too. Is I don't wrestle with vacation days or time off. Like I just want girls to feel, my women to feel empowered that if they need time, that they can take it. There's, that's a hard one as a boss to get around. And I'm probably not perfect at it, but I'm trying. Like I am really working on, and I think all leaders need to do that consistently, like working, what am I doing? How can I get better at it? How can I lead this team better? And so I do really try.
I just love what you do, because it's exactly what I want to help other companies do. I mean, that's why I love what you're doing with them, because you've established an amazing environment for these women. And so my whole idea is that we don't all have to quit our jobs and become entrepreneurs. We can actually create spaces like you have, where the 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like is a good place to be. And it's a place where you feel supported, where you can take the time off, where you're actually talking about things outside of work, which is what creates that family feel, which is what creates an environment where somebody is not going to take $10,000 extra to go to another company.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, because I am boutique and I'm uptown Waterloo, and I know salaries have always been an issue for my company, but I do the best I can. I was the first one to take a pay cut during the pandemic. And I'm the only one who hasn't got a raise back again since we've sort of started to see things come back to normal. And I'm happy to stay there. At this point, I would rather continue to put the money back into my company and my team. I'll be okay, right?
Yeah,
I think that's important.
So yeah. I just want to emphasize everything you've said, for me, is umbrellaed under fun. It's fun to hire people that are going to stay at your company. It's fun to incorporate fitness into work. It's fun to, hire the people that do things better than you, like the HR or the bookkeeper. Those, for me, I'm like, wouldn't that be fun to not worry about bookkeeping?
It is. It's really fun.
So I guess one of my other questions would be, do you think it may be valuable for companies, corporations, businesses to hire an expert in fun, a CFO, for example, to come in and rework, do a really deep dive into the internal workings of their company to get to their goal outcomes, and then help them to get from where they currently are to the end with this light of fun idea?
Yeah, I think you've got a really, what do they say, a tiger by the tail, Rebecca. I think for most large organizations, it is so hard to know what's happening with everyone, right? And it's also, it takes a lot of work. Like, like you obviously we all care about everybody we work with. It's easy for me to do that. There's 10 women that I work with and work with, and I can know about all of them and know their birthdays and know their spouses. And pardon me?
You're taking the time to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, if there were 150 or 300 people that worked here at Durrell, oh my God, I can't even imagine. But that you lose that control and that intimacy with your people. And so I think it's so important to have a resource like what you're proposing, because I mean, you're still worrying about the high level HR and that high level financials and the strategy, and are we meeting our KPIs and all of those things at a multi-million dollar organization. That, I think that's when the fun starts to, like, you just don't know everything that's going on within your organization. And so to have somebody that's specifically looking at that, I think would be really beneficial, because I think it allows those CEOs and the organizational leaders to really understand what's going on and get that almost like a third party perspective on what's going on in their pit, to use my term, our pit here. And I think that would be massively beneficial. And then to come forward with some ideas. Like, it's not like you have to change everything overnight. Like I would say, at the beginning, it was, it was really small steps. And as our team grew, there were little things that have happened along the way that I was like, okay, like I hired a company it's called Chocolate Soup. I'll give them a shout out. They're super cute. And they do all the birthdays and anniversaries, and they do really cute, organic, like neat little gifts. And so they take care of that. The staff love the little things that come in the mail and acknowledgement. And I think, that to me was like, okay, so at least I know that part is managed too. So, but I can't imagine doing that for a large organization. And maybe that's not what you do. Maybe you give them the day off on their birthday because you can manage that with 300 people. But you need somebody to start to think about it and then actually have a strategy of what it looks like and then help the organization execute on it. And, I think that's just, I don't see anything like that. So there might be a few of us that are, dipping our toes in it and trying things out and saying like, this works, this doesn't. Oh my gosh, my entire team, no one's left in a year. So we must be doing something right. What are we doing? But I think it's so nice to have somebody come in. I mean, I know, Rebecca, you've given me a couple of tips here and there, just thoughts of what you think works good for us. And that's really nice to hear, because I don't, we get so down in what we're not down, but heads down working, and you've got all these things in place. Yeah. And, but it's nice to look up to sometimes and say, no, actually, I've seen other things going on around the world with other companies and you're doing okay. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes it does take that third party to come in and evaluate. Yeah, actually, this is great. Let's build on this. This is not working. You're about to lose 10 employees because there's no parking.
Right.
How can we solve this? Let's come up with some strategies. For me, that's that's the power of making daily life for people that are working in corporations or the 9-to-5 better, more fun. Because they're not going to be stressed as soon as they walk in the door because it took them half an hour to find a parking spot. Simple things like this, or incorporating the fitness. There's so many things that, for each company, each corporation, it's going to be customized.
Yes.
Where they are and where they want to be and what their budgets are. All of these things are so important. But yeah, I'm like on a mission to make more people happy, like your employees, I believe, are, if they've been there for a year. And also, like, think of the money that you're not losing, the money you're saving that you can invest back into your company. That's another thing I go, wouldn't it be fun to save that 30% that you're actually going to lose on employee turnover in the next year? Because that's the stat. Wouldn't it be fun to have that 30% and invest it back into your business?
Yes. I often say to people, like, now that I know my financials and I'm intimate with them, like my largest expense at Durrell are my wages, my team. It's the biggest investment that Durrell makes. And so, it was never more spotlighted, like, in flashing neon lights when the pandemic hit. Right. And all of a sudden many of the organizations we worked with were like, pause. We heard it, around the world. And I'm looking at my team going, I don't have enough work for all of these women. Like, what am I going to do? And so that's when all of a sudden you look at that, how much you're paying in wages, and you go, oh Jesus, like, what are we going to do? Hats off to the federal government. It was game changer what they did for small businesses around the world. So I just want to put that out there too, because I don't think we'd be here today, or we'd be a lot smaller we'd be here, but I think we'd be a lot smaller.
And so, grow because you would have lost the employees.
Yeah. I mean, they basically helped me keep my team together. And all of them paid full for the entire pandemic while we started to get our workload back again. And but those are the days, like in March and April, when I'm looking at my ledger constantly going, what am I going to do here? But I also really love my team. Like, I love my girls. They're amazing. They're brilliant. They're smart, and you don't want to lose somebody, especially in this time. It was scary. I mean, we all remember what it felt like. It was like, pardon?
Especially when you've invested so much money into an employee, because you've trained. They're part of the
Yeah,
family.
they are. They
Easy
absolutely are.
to So
Yeah.
yeah, and you're
So yeah,
growing now.
sorry.
Growing again right now. You're onboarding some people.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I think for me, it was a big part of this was my team was great. We managed through everything. The workload started to come back and my team started working harder and harder and harder. And I kind of looked around and I was like, whoa. And I was, I'm a working president too. So I work with clients just as much as my team does. And so there was a point where like all of it, I hadn't had a day off and I can't even remember the last time. And I was like, okay, this is going to have to change. I can't continue on like this. So we've now hired in 2 new assistants who are amazing. And I'm just excited for them to grow with this company. So yeah, hopefully in the next month or 2, we'll have a couple more members of our team. So we'll see. I mean, this whole work from home flexi thing, like, I've started to wanted to create a really cool office space, but I'm not even sure what that's going to look like in the next couple months if I have half a team back or so. It's all still up in the air, Rebecca. Like, I mean, I think that's a really important point about what you're doing with organizations is to say to them, like there is no manual anymore for what an office space looks like. And so you can do anything. So if you're really invested in your employees, you could try anything. So, I mean, go for it, girl. I can't wait to see what you're going to do.
Yeah, and lots of ideas. I have so many ideas. So yeah. Just to close, I've got 2 little closing things. I like because you're just such a great example for companies out there. What would be quickly the top 3 tips you would give to any corporation, especially now?
Mm-hmm.
Tips for growth and success in the next year. What would you tell them to do?
Well, I mean, the first one I would say, pardon? Yeah.
Hire officer.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Make it fun.
Yeah, for me, I think it's the first thing I would say is just know what you do. So like, I think a lot of people have tried to pivot and try new things because what they were doing pre-pandemic isn't working now. So be really, really clear on who your organization is, what you do, and who you do it for. I think that has been a huge part of us being able to come back because like we're boutique. We're media, we help companies communicate, and almost every organization, small or large, needs help with that. So that was, I think for me, that was a big part of moving back. And even in the pandemic, how are you communicating internally? How are you communicating externally? So talking for us, because we're service-based, knowing what the organizations we want to sell to, what they need and what they want. So know your audience and know what they need and do that. And be good at it. Be the best you possibly can be at that, right? That's a big part of it too. A huge part of it for me too, and growth and success, is keep your team. Okay. So work with your team, know your team. Feedback is so important. I mean, I have the ability to do that because I have a smaller team, but celebrate the successes. That's another big thing. Like, especially at this time, there's far more failures than successes. Yes. And so, I do a mandatory 9 a.m. huddle every day with my team, mandatory. And we always celebrate successes on it. So, Toronto Sun, opinion editorial in the Hill, like Hill Times, like we're always, CTV is doing this article on the client. We have to celebrate our successes, because if you don't, then the failures just start to fill up too much, right?
So too much.
Yeah. So yeah, know your time too. Oh, sorry, say that one more time. Zoom cut you out.
You're training your team to focus on the good stuff. Even if there's small wins, if the focus is there, then they will actually create more success because they're focused on it.
It's so true. Like, positivity goes a million miles. And I think that that's a big part of it too. Like, and I'm a glass half full kind of gal, so it's really natural for me. But, it's not natural for everybody on my team. I've got some introverts out there, and, some people who do really focus on it. So being positive and helping them with that as well, I think, is a big part of it. So, yeah.
For sure. Okay. one last little thing I like to do with my guests is the fast round questions. So 1 minute.
Rapid. I love rapid.
And I'm going to ask you a number of questions. You have to answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
All right. I better put my timer on because I'm terrible for actually like doing the 1 minute. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
What is your favorite meal? Best meal you've ever had? Sorry.
Oh, best meal I've ever had. Oh, it was in Seville in Spain, and it was a tapas meal. And to this day, it is the most epic meal I've ever eaten.
Favorite teacher and why?
Mr. Haight, history teacher, grade 8, brought history to life.
Do you sleep with a stuffed animal?
No, just my husband.
Sorry, I came up with that one randomly. What would you like to be remembered by or for?
Helping women rise.
Amazing. That was fast.
I love this. I love rapid fire.
Your favorite lipstick color?
Red.
Okay, and time's up. I love it.
No, Becca, you're a great interviewer. Awesome job.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everybody. This is Melissa Durrell, and she's from Durrell Communications here in Kitchener-Waterloo. Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything, and have an awesome day.
Thank you. You too. It's been my pleasure. Take care, everyone.